What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie, and today we are taking potentially, I don't know how the comments are going to go, a slightly controversial opinion. I don't know. But today we are going to be talking about why this pen is probably one of the most important pens you could ever buy. And yes, I'm wearing calories don't count on Christmas because it's the holidays. We're all going to eat some more donuts and cookies and pies and all that good stuff. Hopefully within reason, but you never know. So, why is this fountain pen probably one of the most important fountain pens you could ever buy? What is this fountain pen? What? This is the Jinhao X159. Now, I have reviewed the Jinhao 159 before, but this is the X159. So far, really the only difference between the two primarily is that this pen is completely resin, the other pen is completely metal. So the other pen is heavy as balls, whereas this one is not. And then the clip is also quite different. This one, if you cannot tell, is designed to look very similar to another pen that looks like this, but costs $1 kabillion more. So before I get into why I think it's one of the most important pens you'll ever buy, let me just quickly talk about this pen. So, stereotypical cigar-shaped pen, slight flare out towards the middle, taper, all that good stuff. Only comes, or the X159 anyways, only comes so far in palladium trim, full black resin body. No other choice. Basic clip, not really a whole lot going on. Relatively stiff, so you should be good to go there, should you decide to use it. And then, of course, there's a little silver trim ring there. Around the cap band, it's super, super plain. It just says Jinhao, and then on the back says X159. So not a whole lot to look at, really. Threaded cap with a chunky, beefy grip section. Fits pretty nicely in my hand. Actually, fits really nicely in my hand. You can push to post if you so choose. To be fair, it actually feels really nice posted. It doesn't add too much weight because it is a super, super, super light, cheap resin. I shouldn't say cheap. I mean, it is cheap. This pen is $15 US retail pricing. I bought this one off of Amazon for 20 Canadian dollars. And it did include a standard international converter, but do check where you buy it from, because most retailers in the US that I've seen are not including a converter. So you'd have to factor that in, but peruse where you so choose. Typically I don't buy anything off of Amazon as far as like pen community stuff go, but in this instance, just didn't make financial sense to do anything else because finances are tight right now, and it's not worth placing a bigger order at an American retailer. Anywho, that's something else. Comes with a steel number 8 size nib, so it's pretty large. Plastic feed, and then the body unscrews. And like I said, mine came with a converter. This one says Jinhao right on it, but it does fit a standard international. And does have metal threads here, which is interesting because I was not going to expect that from this pen, but it does. Which is odd because up until now, I would have assumed you could eyedropper convert if you wanted to, but now there's metal threading, and yet they include a O-ring. I don't know, you can't really see that. Sort of, there you go. They include an O-ring there. So I would not advise eyedropper converting it, but it does have a nice buffer zone when you do screw it closed, and it keeps it closed, so convenient. The nib itself just says Jinhao on it with a blank stamp, nothing too fancy, and an F for a fine nib. You can only buy a fine nib on this pen. You don't have any other options. So I imagine part of the inexpensiveness of this is that you don't have too many options. Like I said, the regular X159, or no, the regular 159, not X, the regular 159 had a multitude of colors you could choose from, and they were all metal. I don't remember the cost of those because it was years and years and years and years ago, but I don't think it was that expensive, to be fair. And this definitely is not either. Basically, it's around the same price as a Pilot Metropolitan. Pilot Metropolitans are a little bit more expensive now, depending on where you are, but in and around there. And the Pilot Metropolitan is a solid pen. So, good choices. But why do I think that this is one of the most important pens you could ever buy? Well, this is the controversial part, because we know that this was designed to be a knockoff of the Montblanc 149. There's no really getting around there. It just is. And it certainly does not, feel like a 149. I have done a very old review now of a pen, of like a Montblanc 149 that somebody lent me. But I've never purchased one myself. And the reason was because at the time, I thought the grip section was too big. It was just too big of a fountain pen. And I didn't like it at all. And this is, from what I can remember and what I've seen online with the specifications, pretty much the same grip size. I think it's about 1 millimeter smaller than the 149, but it has the slight flare out, just like the 149 does. It's got the resin threads, all of that stuff. And it's really, really comfortable. And the reason why I think it's the most important pen is because if you get this, you don't have to get the Montblanc 149, unless you want to. But this gives you a good idea of what those oversized pens are going to be like, because oversized pens tend to be more expensive, whether it's like a flagship pen or not. Most flagship pens are towards the oversized size of brands, some smaller, some bigger, obviously. Like the Pilot Custom A23, while it's like super long, a little bit wider than the rest, it's still not like a chunky beefy boy like this would be. Obviously a Kaler King of Pens, Sailor King of Pens, not quite as beefy as this, but pretty beefy. Back when Delta used to make their oversized pens, like those things were gargantuous compared to this. Whoa. So this is a really great way to have a very inexpensive taste of what that would be like. So regardless of whether or not you're interested in getting like a 149, this is just sort of like a nice, easy foray into oversized pens without having to break the budget. And I will say this writes really, really well, like surprisingly well. Super smooth, never had any issues with it. And of course, we'll get into the writing sample. No hard starts, no skips. It's a little bit drier than I would like, but for the average person, I think it's actually perfect. And again, I'll show you what that is like. I think this is a really great pen, like a really great pen. I like it much more than the regular 159 because it's not metal, and that metal was very heavy. And I appreciate that this is plastic, resin, whatever you want to call it, because to be fair, most of the oversized pens are plastic and or resin. So it gives you a really, really great, cheap way, not as difficult of a barrier to enter into the oversized world. And if you ever were interested in the 149, Montblanc 149, but you didn't want to buy one because dang, that price tag is like, whoo, so you better like it. This is a really good way to know if you would actually like this pen. or that pen, right? Because if you don't like this, then you certainly aren't going to like the Montblanc. And this one is $15 versus like over 1,000. So, you know, now I will say from what I can remember, the writing experience is a little bit different, like the nib itself, obviously. And you have more options on the nib itself, and more color trims and things like that. But this is a great bang for your buck, seriously. And if you're thinking about gifting a pen to anybody, mint. It's really, really awesome. So I'm going to stop rambling. We're going to flip the camera around and we're going to take a look at the size and the writing sample, because that's what you guys are here for anyways, right? All right, I don't do size comparisons super often because, I mean, for me, they're not like amazingly helpful, but this is such a uniquely sized pen that I really wanted to do it. So TWSBI Diamond 580, Benu Euphoria, Pilot Metropolitan, regular size Leonardo Momento Zero, Pilot Custom 74, and a Sailor Pro Gear. So you can see it's pretty chunky between them. Physical size is probably the closest to the Benu Euphoria, but the grip section of a Euphoria is much, much, much smaller and typical of a regular quote-unquote fountain pen, whereas the grip section of this X159 is significantly chunkier. And that, I think, is really the most important. And then you can definitely see that it's a number 8 size nib versus number 6. So just a little quick size comparison before we get into the writing sample. So the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, as always. You can tell by my writing where the like little circles are kind of not super evident. That even though this says it's a fine nib, it writes more towards the medium side. I wouldn't say it's a fat, juicy medium, but it definitely is not a true fine, in my humble opinion anyways. But that said, it is very, very smooth. And the ink for today is Pilot Iroshizuku Sui Gyoku. One of the newer, anyways. You can squeak out a little bit of line variation. Sorry for the incredibly shaky camera tripod. I bought a new one and it's terrible, so it's going to get returned. For reverse writing, it writes really well and actually really smoothly for me as well. Thus far, it has never skipped, never hard started, never really caused me any problems. While it's not a super gusher of a pen, and this is like, I wouldn't say like super wet ink, but it's definitely not like a super dry ink. That really is my only thing with this, is that it's not really a wet writing pen. I think for most people, I would say like 95% of fountain pen users, it is perfect in the amount of wetness. But I mean, I like it to be super, super, super wet. I mean, I like basically this amount of wetness in my like regular line. So I will adjust this a little bit to make it write wetter, in my opinion. But to be fair and honest to the pen, I really do think that this is perfect for the vast majority of fountain pen users. It is honestly one of the best tuned pens that I have actually ever used, straight out of the box. This cost me $20 on Amazon, like I mentioned before. You can get it from actual fountain pen retailers, which I would recommend that you do, so that if you do happen to have a problem with it, you can return it, with ease, and you're supporting our actual community. I can't find this pen anywhere within Canada, and for a pen this inexpensive, it's not worth ordering from the States. And I am super broke right now, so I don't want to order more from the States just to make it worth it. So, but that's neither here nor there for this pen. Do I recommend it? The answer is absolutely. This pen writes absolutely amazing. I really like the way that it sits in my hand. And I do prefer the resin body over the Gigantor metal body that it used to be. So very inexpensive pen, worth absolutely every penny in my opinion, and is the perfect tool to try out before you head down the fountain pen rabbit hole. And if you're already down the rabbit hole, but you haven't gone into like the kind of scary expensive rabbit hole, this is a good way to sort of test out the waters to see if you would like something this chunky. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you want to check out every video that comes out every Monday through Friday for the month of December, Monday and Fridays in irregular time of years. Check out the Patreon link in the description below if you want to help support me and what I do here. And as always, thank you so incredibly much for helping to support me and what I do. All right, bye, guys. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. Just kidding, that's the beginning. It is time for our Patreon crew shout out. This was filmed as of December 1st, so if you don't see your name, don't fret. I will update it as soon as I possibly can. My two ultimate humans, Daniel Rodney and Comp Dave, and all my VIPs, Susan, McCall Bennett Lawrence, Karen Epstein, Gretchen Peters, Carol Lowry, Michael Simon, Subi1 Kenobi, Catherine Molina, Weilei Chang, Brian Law, Bill Pemberton, Lucas Bell, Robert Myers, Marissa Calvo, Eric Lineman, Stephen Baldwin, DigitalTent.tech, Bobby A. Bailey, Bass, Joan Worthman, Luna Wolf Games, Aaron C., and Glenn Kelly. You guys make it super, super, super possible for me to keep making these videos. No matter what tier you're in, I thank you for supporting me on Patreon, especially those of you who've been with me since the beginning. You mean more to me than you could possibly ever know. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.